After spending more than 3 decades in the public eye, NCAA Olympian and 7-time NBA All-Star Grant Hill is out with a new autobiography. And joining me now is the man himself, the Grant Hill, NBA Hall of Famer and author of the recently released autobiography, Game. Grant, so excited to have you on the show this morning. I'm so excited to talk about your book. You know, I've told you so many times, I love your wife, Tamia, and just her songs and amazing. So I feel like this is a reunion of sorts. First question, because you've lived a life in the public eye, and so many people have watched you grow up from Duke to being an all-star. What will we learn in this book that we didn't already know about you?
Yeah, no, Tiffany, it's a great question. I think so much of, I guess, my life, my upbringing, some behind the scenes accounts of some really incredible moments at Duke, in the NBA, obviously a devastating injury, right sort of in the pinnacle of my career. But then also, I think, being very honest about myself and my struggles, my insecurities, maybe some of my flaws, some of these things that I had to deal with along the way. Even when I was, playing at Duke and in Detroit and sort of, at an all-star level as an athlete. So sort of, showing the human side. And so that's not something that you necessarily, you're a little nervous about sharing and exposing, but there is something liberating about doing that, putting it all out there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, as you said, 30 years, people know your story, but they don't know the full story. And this gave me an opportunity to do just that.
Well, you did exactly that. And you talk about something that I think really touches on the Black experience, because Duke had a reputation about the kind of players they recruited and who they were as a team. And you address people viewing your experience as a Black man in this country through certain lens, because your mother was highly accomplished, your father was highly accomplished, you had this Cosby-like, Huxtable-like family. And some people didn't think that was a genuine Black experience. And you counter that narrative, which I think is a conversation so many of us in the community have had. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, Tiffany, I think people have been very interested in, certainly in my upbringing, knowing my story, hearing about my parents, and so getting into that and talking about that. And I think one thing I realized early on is that, look, being Black in America, it's not monolithic. We all have different experiences. Just as we have different shades to our complexion, I think we have different experiences as well. And if you go back far enough, we all come from that same place. And so to talk about that coming of age story and what that was like. And, I never had issues with sort of my Blackness. I think other people may have had issues with, my parents and their background, their education, playing at Duke and the perceptions associated with Duke back in the early 90s. But I was always pretty secure with being Black. I had other insecurities, that were not related to that. But to share that and talk about that and what that was like. I was aware of the privilege. I was aware of my parents' success. I was proud of that, and also recognized that there was incredible pressure that came with that, to live up to their expectations. But it was fun to sort of go into that and share that and explain that and go in deeper detail in the book.
For sure. And, I think it's interesting that you're talking about your insecurities. And, masculinity has certainly changed over the decades, Black masculinity in particular, what that looks like and what that means. And we've really normalized Black men being able to say, here are my mental health struggles, or here's what I felt insecure about, or here's how, I confronted, my emotions around this thing. I know it's scary to do that, but talk to us about it being cathartic as well, and what other young men, who are looking at this very tall, handsome basketball player to know you too had insecurities, what other young men might be able to get out of your story.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, first of all, everyone has insecurities and has flaws and probably has mental health issues that we deal with. And particularly, being Black and being a Black male, Black female, that's part of, being Black in America, I think. But I think in sports 30 years ago, that was taboo. And that was a sign of weakness. At least that was considered back then. But we've changed that narrative. And I think now it's a sign of strength, to be able to talk about, your problems, your struggles, your insecurities, some minor, some major, whatever the case may be. I don't know if I would have felt confident enough or secure enough in sharing this story 15 years ago. But as that narrative has changed and has shifted, now there's more comfort and ease. And as you said, it was very cathartic. You know, you as an athlete, it's posturing, you know, it's body language, it's presenting confidence and exuding that all the time. And that's not always the case. And so, as you said, to be able to strip back the layers and get to the core of some things was definitely liberating.
I can imagine. So I do want to ask, because you're part owner of the Atlanta Hawks. I grew up in Atlanta, and listen, we saw last election cycle, the WNBA team, the Atlanta Dream, they took a very active role in making sure that the Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler took it back to the Peach State. We have another Senate campaign happening there between Herschel Walker and Senator Raphael Warnock. Herschel Walker, a former athlete on the Republican side. I'm just curious, do you anticipate the Atlanta Hawks following in the footsteps of the WNBA and taking an active role in what happens in this Senate campaign and making their voices heard? And just your general thoughts about what that means for civic engagement when it comes to athletes.
Yeah, you know, it's quite fascinating. First of all, I knew you were from Atlanta. I read your book, Say It Louder. Give you a plug. Very well done. I enjoyed it. Very inspiring. You know, I think for us, I mean, you know, you go back to the last presidential election, and during COVID, you know, we had our arena, State Farm Arena, and obviously nothing was happening. There were no concerts, no tours, no basketball games. So we were the first franchise and the first team to open up our arena. Used as a polling center, a place where residents could vote. And you know, look, we had more people come through. We were accustomed to having people in and out of a building, customer service, if you will. And so we're proud of what we did. And obviously Atlanta was such an important, Atlanta and also the state of Georgia played an important role in this last presidential election. So, you know, as we get closer to November, I think there are things that we look forward to doing, we continue to do. You know, being a civic asset, you know, serving the community in Atlanta is something that's very important to us. Not just about putting a good product on the floor, it's also doing well for the community. And so as we continue to get closer to November, we have some things in store.
Well, I will be down there. The Cross Connection will be down in Atlanta. So I look forward to revisiting this conversation, perhaps with some of your players when we come down there. And I just want to say, please tell Tamia she put a move on my heart when I was 17. That was my favorite song. I've told you that before. I love her. I adore her. And congrats on the DeJounte Murray. I hope I'm saying that right. Looking forward to see what he does alongside Trae Young. My production assistant, Kamani, told me to say that. So I want to look like I'm cool and know what I'm talking about. So thank you. Thank you so much, Grant Hill. And I'll see you when I'm in Atlanta, I hope, when our team comes down there. So